Before we get started, I want to thank our first partner, Response Ready Medical. Response Ready Medical, bringing our customers the best quality training and equipment for the worst case scenario. Response Ready Medical's vision is to be the leading provider of emergency preparedness solutions across the United States, empowering communities, organizations, and individuals to respond confidently and preserve life during critical moments. Offering same-day certification, all Response Ready Medical classes are instructed by nationally registered and state-licensed firefighter, paramedics, law enforcement officers, and hospital staff. Classes currently being offered by Response Ready Medical include CPR and AED, CPR, AED, and first aid, emergency trauma care, child and babysitting safety, CABS, backcountry medicine, and wilderness first aid. Your premium partner in emergency preparedness, Response Ready Medical. Welcome to the Pursuing Freedom Outdoors podcast, a place where backcountry warriors can share their stories of grit, service, healing, and wilderness adventures. I'm your host, Tom Walton, Marine Corps veteran, full-time cop, and aspiring hunting and fishing guide. Join me and others as we journey from the hood to the woods in pursuit of freedom in the outdoors. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I just wanted to give you a quick disclaimer, like last week, that this is part 2 of my conversation with Trevor Hubbs from the Mule Deer and Blacktail Deer Foundations. Last week's episode, Trevor and I talked about his military service. We heard about his break into the outdoor industry as a writer and his career with the Backcountry Hunters, Anglers, Armed Forces Initiative, along with what he's doing at the Mule Deer Foundation and Blacktail Deer Foundations currently. We also got into a pretty good deep dive about the outdoor writing industry, what it takes to get into the industry, what editors are often looking for when people submit articles and stories to them. And then we also talked a little bit about the future of the outdoor writer in the digital age. That being said, this week's conversation is going to be a continuation with a major focus on the future of the Blacktail Deer Foundation and what they're doing throughout the West to start studying blacktail deer in partnership with state game agencies. And we also get into a pretty good deep dive about some of the things that are affecting mule deer populations throughout the United States right now. Obviously, if you haven't been paying attention, mule deer are on the decline, and there's a bunch of reasons for that. Trevor tackles a few of the major ones and then talks about what the Mule Deer Foundation is doing in partnership with state and federal game agencies to try to figure that out and maybe come up with some solutions. But a really good listen. I hope you guys enjoyed last week, and I think you will really enjoy this week, and we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for listening. All right, back from our short break. But yeah, so we had talked a lot about how to get into writing. You're with the Mule Deer Foundation, so just kind of get towards our conclusion with, give us the 30,000-foot view of the Mule Deer Foundation, Blacktail Foundation, and what you guys got going on right now, or at least big exciting highlights.
Yeah, I'll do the Blacktail Foundation first, just because it's new. We started last December, so we're coming up on our first year of membership. We have about 1,500 members. Super passionate. We have a lifetime membership deal where you get a pretty sweet rifle from Weatherby. So not too late to get in on that first year, the ground floor. And really the name of the game with Blacktail Deer Conservation is we don't know what we don't know. And right now we don't know a whole hell of a lot. So like I've talked to Oregon, Washington, California, Alaska, so even folks in British Columbia on like, how are you tracking, Mr. Deer Scientist? How are you tracking your blacktail numbers? And like some of the states, I won't name any. I don't want to discredit anyone, but they'll come out with, blacktail numbers are stable. We have anywhere between 1.5 million and 2.5 million, give or take a million. And I'm like, so you could have 500,000 deer. Like that's what that means, give or take a million. Like that's pretty staggering. And when you get into it, it's like, I'll take a new state, Washington, very dense rainforest that these Columbia blacktail live in. They're training Labradors and German Shorthair pointers and a couple other like sporting breed dogs to go find fresh deer poop They bag the deer poop and then do genetic testing, and the amount of different genetic deer poop they find in whatever square mile of habitat, they're then multiplying that by however many miles of habitat. So, all right, they test 1 square mile in the Olympic National Forest, and they find, oh, this 1 square mile has 3 deer, distinct deer pooping that we found. Times 100,000 miles is 300,000 deer. That's how many deer we have, which is it is the best tool we have right now, but it is not super effective. Like,
Yeah.
and they'll tell you that, right? I mean,
Yeah, it seems like it would
what if they
be
didn't poop
a
that day?
pretty rough estimate because, I mean, not all habitat is created equal. And I mean,
Mhm.
all the reasons why some deer might congregate in one area more than others. So,
Oh, absolutely. And we don't know how they respond necessarily in the long term to various types of forest management, right? So at some seasons, you see them in the thick timber, like you get glimpses of them. And it's like, oh, they like this. And then, late season will come around or early season or whatever it may be in the specific area of hunting season. And, oh, they're out in these power line cuts. They don't like thick forest at all. They like these open meadows. And then, what does that mean? And like, at any given time, there's 17 different variables pulling on these deer. Was it a good deer year for berries? Is it a good year for shrubs? Is the wolf population down? Is the mountain lion population up? Like, there's so many different levers to pull to find the perfect version, and you don't quite know what each lever does when you pull it. If that's like the best, like it's a mystery. So, say all that to say, the biggest contribution we are making to blacktail conservation right now is funding and conducting research across the range. We're supporting a deer relocation and collaring project in Alaska in the next month, maybe month and a half. We just did a big collaring study on Kodiak Island. We're looking at how Sitka blacktails are naturally moving into like the Kenai Peninsula, which is more north than they have been. We thought it was more north than they'd been traditionally. And then you have like Dr. Jem Bashel up in Alaska, who they have these like, they're sinkholes. I would call this a sinkhole if I found the same landscape feature in Missouri, but in Alaska, they're called something else because Alaska is super special. But they go to the bottom of these sinkholes and they have deer bones from 10,000 years ago. So they're like, okay, well, some version of a black-tailed deer was here 10,000 years ago, even though they haven't been in the last 150 years. So right now, name of the game is just measuring how things work and gathering data so that the scientists at the state and the federal level can use the data we give them to help manage their species as effectively as possible. And that's the name of the game of blacktail. So your money, your $35 that you give us for an annual membership, with that, you get emails from me, emails from some of my staff writers, tips and tricks from the field, from our biologists, like what they're seeing and what part of the world they're looking at. And, of course, I throw in a fair amount of commercials from our corporate sponsors to hope you buy their gear because they gave us money, so now they want you to give them money.
absolutely.
So that's blacktail deer in a nutshell.
Man, that's I think that's pretty exciting. I mean, we don't have blacktail deer in Idaho, but I personally have like an aspiration to go hunt blacktails in various parts of Alaska, hopefully more than once someday. So, and I just like knowing that you guys are out there specifically directing resources to them because it seems like they were kind of a forgotten species. I don't know if you would say they just kind of got lumped in with mule deer or just forgot about altogether, but I would venture to guess that you could tell me mule deer and blacktail deer are different animals.
Yes, they're very different animals. And for the record, Sitka and Columbia blacktail deer are very different animals. What's interesting is I know a lot of our members think, and a lot of our members supporters are like, "Oh, you guys do too much with Alaska," and that's true both from a media standpoint and a funding standpoint at this time. Like we do a lot with Alaska. I write a lot about Alaska, but that's where I have experience. You know what I mean? So like I can give you a gear list for Oregon, but I've never chased blacktail with a bow in Oregon. I've never been to the Olympic Peninsula chasing blacktail there, but I have been up to the Kenai Peninsula. I have been to Kodiak Island. I have been to Southeast Alaska, and I've seen that. So if you are one of those people complaining that I don't have enough California blacktail, Columbia, or Washington blacktail, Oregon blacktail stories, please send me some. Send me anything. Okay, send me a 15-second clip of you telling me something I wrote previously was wrong, and this is the right answer. I'll put it on social media. It'll be great. Um, and if it's really good, I'll pay you for the privilege. But so that's where we're at right now. Is I know we're a little heavy on Alaska. We've got more stuff coming on California, Oregon, and Washington. I promise we got more stuff coming.
Outstanding. That's great. No, glad that you guys are doing that. Like I say, I'm glad that Blacktail Deer got some resources coming their way because I think it's important. I love the research aspect about it because especially those in like Washington and Southeast Alaska where it's like this dense forest, they're kind of like a little mystery critter.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be super cool to see what you guys come up with. I know I was reading an article today about the difference between Sitka and Columbia blacktail, so that was really cool. I do got one more question before we leave blacktail, but it'll transition us into mule deer. What's the difference between a Columbia mule deer down in Southern California versus a big desert muley in Southern California?
An imaginary line really is the difference. No, I mean they act a little differently. The antler structure is different. The way that they process calories is kind of the biggest difference, which is one of the coolest things about mule deer and blacktail deer to an extent. But mule deer have this interesting thing in their stomach where at certain times of the year they can process types of calories that they can't at other times. And what I mean by that is, we can find a mule deer in February that is starved to death with a belly full of corn.
Huh.
Because its stomach cannot process those calories. It needs sage, it needs bitter brush, it needs native vegetation. It can't eat that, which is wild. And the Columbia blacktail have adapted a little bit differently, more of that coastal animal where they can handle more diverse sets of calories at different times of the year. But like the difference between Columbia blacktail in Southern California versus Columbia blacktail in Northern Washington, there's exceptions to every rule, but in general, like the farther south you get, the more antler you're going to find, the more inches of antler.
Gotcha.
And that's not what all people are looking for necessarily in a blacktail. Like you don't go to Sitka or to Kodiak Island and hunt Sitka blacktail because you think they're going to have the biggest rack in the world. Like you can find whitetails with a bigger rack than a Sitka blacktail. I mean, there's one right here, but it's the adventure, it's the experience, it's the landscape. So that shouldn't deter you from going somewhere else. But if you want the biggest blacktail you can find, Central and Southern California is where you're going to find it. Where it's like, yes, this is technically a blacktail, but you definitely have some crossbreeding between blacktail and mule deer. We call those bench legs bucks, and that's not a term we came up with at the Mule Deer Foundation or the Blacktail Deer Foundation. That's a generalized term that actually I believe came out of Oregon and the Cascades, or Washington, the Cascades. They call them bench leg bucks, where
all right,
technically it's a blacktail, has a big old rack like a mule deer.
Awesome. No, that's good stuff. Bench leg bucks. Maybe that'd be a good podcast title. I like it, man. So Mule Deer Foundation. Now that's been around a lot longer than the Blacktail Foundation. I think everybody's familiar with the Mule Deer Foundation. And, one of the most iconic critters of the West would be the mule deer. So, what do you guys got going on over there right now?
Yeah, I'll give it to you plain. Things are not looking great for mule deer. If you want to let's look at bighorn sheep improving in the last 50 years. Rocky Mountain elk dramatically improving in the last 50 years. Moose numbers are going up. You used to have one tag in Colorado. Now you've got just under 100 for moose. What else is going up? Pronghorn slowly recovering, but recovering. Mountain goats recovering, going up. Like you may have years where they go down, but in general, over the past 50 years, all these Western species, their populations are going up. Fucking bison. Sorry, I said a bad word.
It's all good.
Bison going up. Mule deer in the last 50 years. This is not a statement that anybody can argue with. In the last 50 years, there's far less mule deer today than there were when our grandparents were hunting them. And if you want to look up the numbers, it's in the Western Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies, shortened to WAFWA. You can just type that in, WAFWA, report on mule deer 2025. It'll give you all the numbers. Now, what we're seeing here is, I'm looking at my cheat sheet here on the right, so I don't have this memorized, but 11 out of 18 states are not 18. There's like 20. 11, and basically 11 states are showing a decline. 6 states are telling us they're stable, and only 4 states are showing an increase. Now, what's interesting about the stable and the increase that you need to know is this is an increase over the last year or an increase over the 5-year average. That's not an increase from 50 years ago. And there's a reason for that is a lot of these state officials, like, and this isn't a knock on them, like, this is how they've been trained to do their jobs. This is how they're paid to do their jobs. Is if you're a chief deer scientist for, we'll just make up the made up state so we don't name anybody. You are now the chief deer scientist for Thomas-topia, right? You get paid to tell hunters that everything is fine or everything's not fine, but we're fixing it. You can't say, hey, we're 2,000% worse than we were 50 years ago, and I've been in this job for 10 years. Like, you just, like, people are not going to come out and tell you that they're bad at their job or that beyond their control something bad has happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. There's some marketing in that, right? You don't want your
Absolutely.
public that's paying
well,
you
and that's where we get,
yeah.
Yeah. That's where we get states that say, oh, yeah, our mule deer numbers are stable. We've either got 1.5 million or 2.5 million, give or take a million. Like, we don't know is what that means. But so that's kind of give you a teaser. You're the first podcast that we've said this on, so congratulations. That's kind of going to be our marketing strategy that I wouldn't say I've masterminded. I've gotten permission from the board to design, so I've been spending a lot of time putting an annual marketing plan together for this program. Basically, it's just mule deer are in trouble. They're the only Western species that are in trouble. And you, as the hunter, angler, and mule deer enthusiast, just somebody who enjoys Western culture and the Western landscape, it's on you. Like, and I'm not saying that to skirt Mule Deer Foundation's responsibility. We can help, but it has to be on the individual hunter to say mule deer are important to me. Like, whether you volunteer with us, whether you volunteer with somebody else, go out and plant sage, get involved, go to your state deer hearings, like, become educated on it and make your opinions known. Like, you have to be the hero of the story. I can help you. I can be Yoda to your Luke Skywalker, but you have to go fight Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine. Like, the Mule Deer Foundation is happy to help. I want to help you, but I can't go do it alone. It's kind of the theme there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it's just like with Blacktail. I mean, there's 100 things affecting mule deer that are causing this. But if you want to get into that, we can.
Yeah. I mean, just the 30,000 foot, are we talking like death by 1,000 cuts? Or they're like, there's 100 things happening, but these top 5 are just crushing them right now? I mean, I know I've heard.
I'll give you top 5. Yeah. We'll do top 5. Right now, the biggest thing is habitat loss and fragmentation. So, like we said earlier, mule deer have to have those native food sources. Like most animals, if a mule deer in February, March is a mule deer doe is insufficiently has insufficient nutrition, they'll self-abort the fetus. Like, their body will choose to preserve their own life, then die, and then the baby deer, the doe and the fawn both die. Like, it's not a good situation. So the more native grasses that are connected that we have, the better. And the other thing with that habitat loss is it has to be connected. Like, you look at me in Missouri, I've got 120 acres. I've got whitetail that are more or less going to live on my property. Like, the average whitetail doesn't move more than 9 miles in its entire life, 9 square miles. Mule deer can go 900 miles a year. Like, they're on state land, they're on tribal land, federal land, private land. They're all over. We've got to get that figured out. Now, the problem with that is everybody knows, habitat loss is a real problem, but it's also the most expensive to fix, and it takes the longest to fix, right? So, like, somebody has to work on it, but it's not like what did we plant last year? I'm going to get this wrong. 500,000 acres of new plantings, but all that sage will not reach maturity for 30 more years. Like, this is a long game we're playing. So you got a lot of folks that will get into the next biggest thing, which is predation, which we're not supposed to talk about it. I don't want to say we're not supposed to talk about it. The problem in talking about it is it's easy to talk about and complain because it absolutely has a cause, and an effect on deer. I mean, there's coyotes, there's mountain lions, there's wolves, there's grizzly bears, black bears. A lot of things like to eat baby deer. And it's very visible to hunters, anglers, anybody who's outside, especially in the spring, is piles of fresh deer bones. Like, that happens. You see it. The problem that we have is we are not, as an organization, I can't afford to put out some sort of a hit list on coyotes, right? I can't pay
Right.
you $5 per coyote tail that you send in. I can encourage you to go seek the advice of your local trapping or Fur Takers of America chapter and learn how you can get involved in this. I can advise you to go to your state hearings and talk about predator management at the state level and how you're going to make your opinion as a hunter, angler, user of the outdoors known. But as an organization, we have no lobbyists. We have a lobbying company, but we really only engage in about 4 things a year. Like that's not our thing. We have 30 plus biologists on staff, foresters, botanists, ecologists. Like we do habitat. But
Gotcha.
predation is this whole thing right now that does need to be managed, needs to be looked at, needs to be studied. The other thing we have is wildfires, which is also in the same boat as like climate change. Like they go hand in hand. Like as the climate changes, there will be more wildfires. There's a lot of ways to mitigate that, and that's one of the things. I mean, people are going to be mad at this too, but the current administration, like cutting trees, that's not a terrible thing. A properly managed forest in the right scenario can severely impact how likely a wildfire is to be damaging or less damaging. Worked a couple of wildfires with the Mule Deer Foundation last year. Wildland firefighters all across the Western United States are using Mule Deer Foundation project maps to help them fight fires. So, like where we make a line to cut trees to get rid of juniper and replace with aspen or whatever it ends up being that are better for mule deer in the short term, wildland firefighters use those maps and use those lines to create natural cuts to funnel wildfires. Like it's a thing that needs to be done more. And yeah, I'm not saying the administration is perfect, but as far as cutting more trees and opening up that forest, removing some fuels, not the worst idea in the world.
Absolutely. I
Um,
mean, I agree with you.
yeah.
And we're not a politically correct show by any means. I'm not here for people's feelings. Um, I want people to enjoy the podcast, but I mean, common sense, I think with the forest management is we need to remove, like you said, remove those fuels. It's good for the economy. We produce timber. Timber is important. It's
Mhm.
necessary. We're never not going to need timber to be harvested. And, here in North Idaho and, a lot of Western states, there's a huge timber industry that fuels economies, jobs.
Mhm.
I think responsible timber harvest is a win-win for wildfires, the economy, and wildlife.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if we want to look at, well, we'll look at another species just to kind of prove a point, a better illustrate a point here is 50 years ago when we were printing a lot more, like books were made of paper, letters, junk mail, whatever you want to call it. Like the paper industry with the tree cutting industry up north was booming. Like we were moving through trees in Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, um, and wildlife was booming because what's good for new deer, what's good for new bears, what's good for new grouse is new growth forest. They still need the old growth. Nobody's saying go knock down an entire hillside of trees without a plan.
Right.
What we are saying is if you're going to responsibly manage this 100,000 acre forest, part of that management has to be clearing trees so that when a fire happens, which it will happen naturally, lightning strikes, just accidents, things happen, you'll always have fire. But the idea is to mitigate the risk of that fire by not allowing it to burn as hot and as fast as it's been recently.
Right.
Um, that's a big issue. But the Mule Deer Foundation is working on, along with our habitat work, and we're doing a great job. Always room for improvement, but that's another key focus area. And the last thing, as far as like the situation currently with mule deer, it's just kind of a sleeper agent that could be terrible if we don't do something or figure out something soon, and that's chronic wasting disease. And there's
I
people
had
out
a
there that say
feeling.
it isn't real. Yeah, I like the entire state of North Dakota right now is kind of like there's some folks in there that are in some pretty powerful positions that don't think chronic wasting disease is real. And surprise, those folks have vested interest in whitetail deer high fence operations. And the idea of chronic wasting disease hurts their bottom line. And
Absolutely.
they're not saying it's not real. They're saying that it's always been here and that it will naturally move through herds, and that's just a part of being a deer is you might get chronic wasting disease. And and to be honest with you, that might be true. What we know about chronic wasting disease is it can be spread from whitetail to mule deer to elk. It can decimate a herd very fast. We know that out of a study coming out of Wisconsin that's recently been peer reviewed and is now published in the past 6 months from Dr. Daniel Storm, who we work with very closely at the Mule Deer Foundation. He's one of the leading top 5 guys on CWD in the United States right now. Anyway, over 5 years, studied 5,000 deer, 100% mortality within 18 months of contracting CWD.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's not, there's not room for error here. It is deer die when
Yep.
they get CWD.
Yep,
And they die within 18 months. And in the last 2 months, up until the last 2 months, there are no physical symptoms. But in the last 2 months, they drop 40 to 60% of their body weight, and they start stumbling around because they don't have enough fat in their brain to move around. So then it's like, oh, well, this deer didn't die of CWD. He got hit by a car. It got hit by a car because it had CWD and was stumbling around the road for 2 hours.
Right.
Like, or, oh, this deer
Yeah.
got eaten by a mountain lion. This deer got eaten by a mountain lion because it was running around like a psycho. It's, CWD is a real thing. It's not magic. It's not like this. It's manageable. We need to figure out how to manage it, and we can't figure out how to manage it until we understand how it's currently impacting the deer herd. So I know California just did some mandatory CWD testing, and people are a little up in arms around it. I've been in CWD areas for a long time, hunting whitetail and mule deer. Takes very little effort to get your deer tested. Whether you want to eat that deer personally or not is up to you. We have not had CWD get transferred over. At the time of recording, no CWD has been transferred to a human from consumption of an infected animal. That being said, we have been able, in a lab setting, we being just people, scientists, Dr. Daniel Storm's team, have been able to give CWD to a primate from infected deer meat, not from eating. They had to inject it, like the actual disease, but it can't. So we know that in a lab setting, it can be transferred to a primate. And I'm not saying this to scare anybody. I want you to have all the facts before you decide to eat a CWD deer or not. I've eaten CWD deer because at the time I didn't really care. Now, with 2 kids and a wife, and we haven't bought beef in 5 years now. We've been living off wild game as our primary red meat. I don't know. I honestly can say I don't know. I mean, if I would feed it to the kids, I don't know if it's necessarily because of the risk or because if anything would happen, would I feel bad? I don't know. But that's a decision that each person has to make for themselves. But anyway, yeah, it doesn't take long to get your deer tested for CWD. You're not giving up your rack. You're not giving up the hide or the meat. Like, it isn't, let me give the state this whole deer and maybe I get something back. They take a little lymph node out of the neck of the buck. Or if it's a doe and you don't want the skull, they'll take the whole head. That's a lot easier. And that just helps these different states or different regulatory agencies track, is CWD spreading? Is it a big deal? Because especially with drought years. So like, let's look at Eastern Wyoming. With a drought year or a heavy fire year, like last year, it's the same as a bunch of starving people and you dump a truckload of Big Macs and tie their hands behind their back. They're going to eat. Spit's going to get on other burgers. You're going to eat someone else's spit. They're going to eat your spit. If one of you has the flu, now everybody has the flu. It's not hard to contract between deer, especially when resources are low, whether that resource is food or water. Yeah, it's easy to spread the disease.
We're in the worst drought on record here in Idaho this year, the Pacific Northwest. So, in fact, I just learned that we're having a blue tongue outbreak up north of where I live now. But yeah, my wife and I are going hunting this weekend in a CWD management zone. And we have to get our harvested animals tested. But Idaho, we're going on a doe hunt because these are doe management doe tags. But Idaho's actually sends you a little kit now that you can just harvest the lymph node yourself in the field. It gives you instructions, and you just drop it off at the checkpoint or Fish and Game office. And it's that easy. You don't even have to give them the whole head. For a doe, if I'm by anywhere near the truck, I'm probably just going to cut the head off and take them the head. But yeah, I agree with you. You know, I'm a little bit of like I've probably always been on like a disease on planet Earth. But I think the spread of it is real and it's concerning. I definitely want to know more about it. And I don't think it should be ignored by any means. I think it's a worthwhile venture for our fish and game agencies, conservation organizations to spend some money to continue to figure this out. Worst case scenario, we don't get anywhere. Maybe we, and that really sucks, I suppose. But best case scenario, we figure out how to manage this thing and kind of get it under control, because it sucks when we found out that it was in Idaho. And of course, now that it's been found in one part of Idaho, every year another unit's popping for CWD,
Yep.
right? So it's not fun.
And it spreads. No, it spreads easy. And this isn't something mule deer or mule deer managers have done wrong. This is primarily a whitetail problem that is spreading west. And it's
Yep.
because let's look at Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, big whitetail hunting states have 8 times the number of whitetail that they had 30 years ago. That's not exactly true. It's something like that. Don't quote me. I'm probably like 80% right on that. But they have a ton more whitetail than they used to have. You get more whitetail, disease spreads faster, spreads to more deer, slowly moves west. You got deer moving around on game farms. It's no good. Transferring the disease to other places. It's, yeah, man.
Yeah. I think it's a good avocation for shooting does. When you have that opportunity to shoot does, I know there's a lot of kind of the good old boy club where I'm at. Some of my friends are, they're just going to shoot these poor does and they're making babies and ain't no one coming on my land to shoot, does or whatever their thing is. And I'm just like, you know what, man? Like, I understand. I have a heart for the mama deer too, but these overcrowded ag lands is what we're doing. We don't have necessarily deer farms. We do have elk farms in the area, but, we have overcrowded agricultural ground. They're just littered with white-tailed deer, and that's exactly where disease is going to spread. That's where the EHD, the blue tongue, is right now. It's in those crowded ag fields during a drought. They're all hanging out by farm ponds, next to the cows, and they're getting disease. I mean, overcrowding is just like, why is disease rampant in jails? Why is disease rampant in schools?
Yeah.
Why is disease rampant when people cross the ship on or the ocean on ships? Crowded places breed disease.
Yeah.
We have to manage our deer populations, and yes, we want more deer, but we want what deer we have to be healthy.
No, absolutely. It's so that's where we're at with the Mule Deer Foundation. Is the mule deer decline is real. We have a plan to fix it. We need more members. We need more supporters. We need more corporate partners, and need them now. So give me $35.
Awesome, man. Well, taking a lot of your time. I know you're a little bit later over yonder way. Any concluding thoughts, words of advice, what you got going on for your hunting season? I know you're going to go chase some deer, but any concluding thoughts you got to leave us with?
Yeah, I am. I did not draw a Western tag this year, which is the first year that's happened in 5 years. It's a bummer. I just got back from Alaska doing a big fishing trip. Brought back about 60 pounds of salmon and cod and halibut and rockfish, all kinds of great stuff. So I'm eating that a lot, and then I can shoot 8 whitetails this year between a couple different properties that I have access to, and I am looking forward to that. Looking forward to starting to manage this new property, and not afraid of an empty freezer, but I am gonna be missing the West this year. I'm pretty bummed about it.
Yeah, well, the West will miss you, brother. So, but
Thank you.
I appreciate it, man, and hopefully you and I will get to share a hunting camp again someday.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So, good deal. Well, until next time, man, take care, and hopefully we'll have you on with some good updates on what you got going on with both those foundations in the future.
Yes, sir.
All righty.
Thanks again. And if this resonates with you, I want to welcome you to the tribe and encourage you to share this podcast with your friends. Hit subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Pursuing Freedom Outdoors. And if you or someone you know has a great story about life or the wilderness, I want to share it. You can shoot me a message on Instagram or email me with all inquiries and questions at thomas@pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. That's Thomas, THOMAS, at pursuingfreedomoutdoors.com. Until next time, get out there, get after it, and pursue freedom in the outdoors.